Bonnie has over 25 years experience in the healthcare industry as a nurse and as a people leader and manager. She's also been a leader of workers' compensation, case management, utilization review, and ancillary organizations. We're going to spend some time with Bonnie to hear more about her decision to enter healthcare and to learn why advocacy is so important to her. So, Bonnie, you ready? Let's take a trip down memory lane.
Okay. I was in the service, as most of y'all know. I was in the Army. It was a great experience. And when I got out, I thought I wanted to be a CPA. So I went to school and I took some accounting courses in college, and they were boring. So then I had a brother-in-law who asked me to be a stockbroker. So I got my certification in that, became a stockbroker, and talked about money all day long, boring twice as much.
Oh, boy.
Just as bad. It was terrible. So then I took a job, part-time job while I was in school, doing bookkeeping for a home health agency where my mom happened to work. She was a supervisor there, manager there. And I got involved with a lot of the nurses there and talked to a lot of them and thought, maybe I could do this. There was a lot of opportunities in nursing. I knew that it meant caring about people, and I wanted to do something that was an honorable profession and cared about people and not talk about money all the time. And I thought, maybe I can do this. So my big problem was I'm very squeamish, very squeamish. So I didn't know if I could do it.
Don't you have to be not squeamish to be a nurse?
You do. So I signed up for nursing school, and there was a wait list, and I had to wait 6 months. So during that 6 months, I took a job as a private duty nurse's aide, working for a bedbound patient at home. Mm. And I found that as soon as I walked in the room with the patient, I wasn't squeamish anymore. It was all about the patient. It wasn't about me anymore. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can actually do this.
How about that?
I got into this like most of us, not knowing what in the heck it was, honestly. I was in the hospital. We were understaffed. There was a fire. The fire was absolutely horrible, and I had refused to report earlier that evening because of lack of staffing. And so when the fire happened, the guy died whose room the fire started in, and we had to evacuate all the patients off our floor. It was the worst night of my life in the hospital. And so I decided I needed to get out of the hospital at that point, that if they weren't going to staff us correctly to take care of patients well, I didn't want any part of it. And a friend of mine named Susan Lewis worked for a work comp case. You remember Susan?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. That's a blast from the past.
She's passed now.
Yes, I know that.
She's a lovely woman. So anyway, she called me and said, Bonnie, you got to come over here. We're hiring. So I did. So I came over knowing nothing. And I came over and ended up at the work comp and have not left since. Love it. Love it. If somebody was passing and they had no family, which happens way too often, we'd have a nurse stay in the room with them and hold their hand and talk to them as they passed. I mean, it's that kind of thing. I think you just have to have it as part of who you are to make a good nurse. And every good nurse I've ever known has a lot of compassion. I always think about injured workers, how difficult it is to have an injury at all. None of us like it. And so I always think it's difficult enough to have just to deal with the injury, but the work comp industry is so complicated, isn't it? I mean, every state has its own rules. Every company has its own policies. It's just crazy. So I always feel like we are their best person to advocate for that injured worker, to help them not just medically get through their problem, but also understand what you need to do next, where you need to go, what you need to say to the doctor when you talk to them. There are a lot of things you can do, writing to doctors, talking to the doctor directly as much as you can. But I'm going to tell you, I think the biggest number one thing you do is use a conference call. So if you're setting up an MRI.
I love that idea.
Oh, yeah. It's just because it gets done right away.
Yeah.
So you get hold of the injured worker and you tell them, I'm setting up an MRI for you. Let's call together to one call or to, Orchid, whoever you're setting up the call with. And so let's go ahead and make this appointment together. And so when you call them, two things happen. One, you get it scheduled quickly with the injured worker right there on the phone, agreeing to the appointment time and date. And it's good for the vendor. It's good for you. It's good for the patient.
Right.
But number two, because when you call the one call and you're the case manager, you kind of can show your value and they see that you know exactly what you're doing. And the injured worker learns to trust you more because here you have arranged this for him. I think the thing to do is don't think of people as that knee injury or that back injury, that neck injury. Think of them as John Smith. Think of them as Jane Goodall. Think of them, whatever their name is. Try to get their name in your head and imagine that you had that injury. Just imagine that injury was yours and how you would feel and how it affects your functions in your life. And like that, I think when you think that way about an injured worker and then when you're talking to them on the phone, it comes across.
Yeah.
They recognize that you get it, that you have empathy.
We are all advocates in every single role, from leader to frontline worker. We all perform services that improve the lives of those we serve. Advocacy comes in all shapes, sizes, and colors. Consistent, purposeful caring breaks down walls and barriers. And advocacy never stops.